Okay, I'm sure you were wanting to hear stories about Kenny, my little brother. It started in Payson, Arizona on September 9, 1968. The day started with my mom and dad dropping me off at some friend's house, and the only thing I remember of that day is sitting underneath the chair or hiding under the chair, looking up at the door, waiting for my mom and dad to come back and get me. They had gone to McDonald's to order me a baby brother. At least I hoped it was going to be a baby brother. I didn't want a sister. Anyway, I remember Dad coming and picking me up and taking me to this building that wasn't McDonald's and had a really long hallway. And the first time I saw my baby brother was at the end of this hallway, and he had lots and lots of black hair. After that, we moved to Arizona Flagstaff when he was about 3 months old. And from Flagstaff, we kind of moved back and forth between Flagstaff and Loma Linda, and then back to Flagstaff again. A couple of stories I remember when he was really little is that Mom would give him a bath, and right before bedtime we'd get our bath, and she'd put us to bed. And when Kenny woke up in the morning, somehow he got out of the crib and got very dirty, because every morning he woke up dirty. And that's when Uncle Mickey gave him the name Pigpen. Another thing he was really good at was climbing. He would climb up in the middle of the night sometime, and he would always find my box of crayons. And then I couldn't find my crayons. And one day we were outside doing something outside the window, and Mom found my crayons all melted to the side of the house. And so there started me and my brothers not so much getting along anymore. We kind of had our fights. Another time, I remember living in Arizona, and we had moved back home, and I think I was in first grade at this time. So that would have put Kenny about 4 years old. One day he decided in the middle of winter that he needed to take the fish out for a walk. So fish had to be in water, so he put water in the wagon, and then he snuck the fish outside and he took the fish for a walk. Later that evening, when Mom went to feed the fish were gone. And we were looking, wondering everywhere where the fish were. Kenny didn't know where the fish were. I certainly didn't know where the fish were. Finally, we found the fish outside in the wagon. Then Kenny told us that he wanted to take the fish for a walk, but he didn't get them back in the house before they froze into the bottom of the wagon. The fish did thaw, and they did live to swim another day. When we lived in Arizona, it was kind of almost like living here in Loma Linda too, because we came back so often. I really don't remember living one place or the other for a short time because we came home so much. But there was a time when we were here, and my Aunt Ordell's kids had given us their pedal cars, and we were driving in the driveway alongside of Grandma's house, and the neighbor girl was pushing Kenny, and I was pedaling in my car. Well, Kenny's feet got stuck, and I guess he must have been barefoot, because he was pedaling, or his feet got caught in the pedals, and he cut off, almost was just a little bit hanging on his little toe. And we had to take him up to the emergency room, and I remember thinking I didn't take care of my baby brother very well. And that was when I realized that I needed to start taking care of him a lot better. After that, I took a lot of responsibility, and that's kind of jumping back to when the fish incident happened. I kind of took the blame even though I wasn't home when it happened. We had lots of other little things that happened, you know, brothers and sisters fight, and then we get along. He was my best friend, but he also could be my pain in the butt. One of the things that we liked to do was play outside, but me having allergies like I do, Kenny thought it was so nice if he would give me flowers, bouquets of flowers. So he would go and he would pick sunflowers, you know, the little black-eyed Susan things, and he would chase me with them. He thought he was being sweet, but I was really badly allergic to them, and it would make me deathly sick. He thought he could get away with being mean to me by being sweet, and Mom didn't think it was funny. We spent our days playing Bonanza and Emergency on our swing set, and playing snowball fights in this winter, and coming back and forth to California to visit Grandma and Papa. In California, we would spend our summers going to the beach and camping, going to Disneyland with our cousins, Magic Mountain, Knott's Berry Farm, SeaWorld, Marineland. In July 1973, we were going to have a new addition to our family. Mom and Dad told us we were going to have a baby, and we were going to get to have our own room if the baby was the other sex. So I wanted my own room, and Kenny wanted his own room. I don't know why we were looking to have our own room, because we never were separated. When we did have our own rooms, Kenny still came and slept in my room, in bed with me. So it was around the time that Joanne was born, Mom decided to get bunk beds, just when she was pregnant. Decided that the baby was going to get their own room, no matter if it was a girl or a boy. But we still decided I wanted a sister and he wanted a brother, even though we were going to still stay in the same room and not share. We just keep sharing. Well, the day came and Joanne was born, and lo and behold, it was a girl. So now Kenny was the only boy. He wanted a brother because he didn't have any brothers. I wanted a sister because I didn't have any sisters. Then in 1976, we moved to Washington. This would be the last move that our family would take together. When we were in Washington, we had lots of fun playing with our cousins up in Washington. We also had a basement underneath our house that was dirt, and we used to go under there, and Kenny, again, continued his name, Pigpen. On summer days in College Place, Kenny and I would walk down to the Lions Park or ride our bikes down there, and we took inner tubes, and there was this creek that goes through Lions Park that we used to go inner tubing down. I don't think you're supposed to, but nobody ever stopped us, and we liked doing that. There was also a kiddie fishing pond there that we used to go fishing. And then in 1981, my parents separated, and Kenny moved with Dad to Kennewick, and Mom and Joanne moved to Klickitat, Washington, and I stayed at school in College Place. So our days together were over, and we were all separated. While in Kennewick, Kenny attended the Highlands Middle School, and he lived with Dad, and Dad finally married Pat. And in June of 1982, Mom had Julie, and Julie was born. Kenny went to go live with Mom around that time, and they lived in White Salmon, Washington by then. Anyway, at that time, Mom took Kenny aside and told him that if he wanted a brother, she was done. And if he wanted a brother, he would have to grow up, have his own brother, and have his own sons. And so he didn't get any brothers. When Mom and Marvin got together, they moved to California, and they got married in Grass Valley, Washington, or California, near Sacramento somewhere. Anyway, Kenny graduated from 8th grade there, and then they moved down into Sacramento. And they spent the summers or the springs going and watching the 49ers practice. When Kenny started high school, they moved down to the Moreno Valley area, and they lived near Sun City and Paris. He attended Paris High School, and one of the highlights of his high school years was the junior ROTC. One of his best friends was Mark Bowen, and because Kenny never had a brother, he adopted Mark as his brother. And they graduated from high school, and Mark would hang out with Kenny, and some of the times he would come and hang out with me. We actually did stuff like going to Magic Mountain and stuff. And then after high school, Kenny graduated in 1988, and after high school he came to live in Loma Linda with Guy and I. He started working at the dairy, Loma Linda Dairy, and we just go hang out and do stuff after work. And we would go hang out and do stuff with my sister-in-law, Rhonda, and we used to have lots of fun and just hanging out at Jinx Lake or wherever. Tammy Simons came to work at Loma Linda Market, and that's when he met Tammy. And they dated, and they got married in December of 1989. After Kenny and Tammy got married, Julie used to spend weekends with Kenny, and they would hang out and do stuff together. And he kind of helped Julie on the weekends. And he lived down the street from us, and so we would kind of hang out too. And then in 1995, in March 13, he had Heather, or Tammy had Heather rather, but they had Heather, and that started their family. August 26, 1997, Heidi was born, and that was his family. Again, no boys. Kenny's desire to have a brother never really came true, except for with his brother-in-laws, Guy and Carl, and his adopted brother, his best friend, Mark. In 2002, Kenny and Tammy separated and got divorced. Kenny had a passion for his girls, but he also had a passion for horses. I remember when we were little, the neighbors had a horse, and we used to tell people, even after we moved to College Place, that we used to have a horse because we thought we shared the horse next door. The kids told us we shared it, so we took ownership. But his dream was one day found when he moved to Yucaipa after his divorce, and he bought his horse Magic. He spent all his time with Magic. If he wasn't working on the taxi, he was up with Magic. The girls and he spent every weekend, every hour they could with Magic, riding Magic. They just had a passion and a love for Magic, taking care of him. He transformed from being a city boy, which when he was married to Tammy, he was a Domino's driver. He went from a city boy to a cowboy, the cowboy that he was when he was born, meant to be. He loved Magic with everything in his heart. He loved Magic as much as he loved his girls. And in 2010, Magic got sick. He spent the whole night with Magic, trying to help him to recover. And the girls and he spent the whole night trying to get Magic to be able to stand up, and without ceasing, they worked with Magic. But unfortunately, Magic passed away that next day. He never really stopped his love for Magic. It's apparent on his Facebook wall. Magic's everywhere. And he never stopped his love for his daughters either. His daughters, Heather and Heidi, were his passion, and he would give anything and everything for them. Kenny spent the last few years driving taxi. The last time we came down for a vacation as a family, Julie and I, and Guy and I, and Carl and the kids came down. We came down, and Kenny was so proud of Magic. He took Julie out, and the kids were riding Magic, and we took Matthew out, and he got to ride Magic as well. But Kenny also loved to have fun, and one of our last family trips together, we went to Disneyland with all the kids, and he teased us and saying that we owed him something like, I don't know, $85 for our taxi fare, because he drove the taxi to Disneyland and back. And that's how he spent his last several years for work. It was driving a taxi. And he really did love the people that he had as regular customers. And he loved the people he worked with, and that was apparent because whenever he would call and talk to me on the phone, not only did he talk about, this run or that run, he would pick certain people and tell me all about them and how they had passions, and he wanted to have a horse ranch, and he wanted to have a horse ranch that he could have autistic children come up and learn to love horses as much as he did. And he wanted to be able to have them have experiences, and he really had a heart for that. But that dream never came true. He still was working with on the taxis and helping other people get to where they needed to go. When he got sick last spring or last fall, he fought really hard to get better, but he never did get better. And now we will miss him really bad. One of my last memories of him being visiting up in Washington, when all of us were together, my dad, my mom, all my nieces, all my nephews, my brother, my sisters, all in one roof, or it was in 2009. And the girls came up with him, and we had bought him a hat, and we decided to have white elephant. And we planned it that my oldest nephew, Kevin, would open up the hat, and he would get to pick the hat. And Kenny, oh, the look on his face when he saw that hat that my nephew opened up, it was like disappointment, total disappointment. Well, then it was Kenny's turn to get to pick a gift. We had made it so that we couldn't take from the kids. The adults could only have what the adults picked, and the kids could only have what the kids picked. So that was mainly his disappointment. But when he found out that the hat was really for him, his face totally changed. I mean, it was like he lit up like the sun. And I think that was part of his cowboy inside coming out. And then the next day, he got another gift that I'm not sure how well he liked it, but I know Heather and I enjoyed it. It was a Mexican train domino set. Well, he liked playing the Mexican train, but he hated the button, the whistle for the train. It just drove him insane. So Heather and I made sure we had to push that often. Anyway, these are some of the stories that I have about my brother Kenny. I know that you're all going to miss him as much as we do. I know you all have memories. I know my cousin Marie, who we always called Aunt Marie when we were little, she's made comments about his smile, and his smile is in my mind all the time. And when I look at his girls, I still see his smile. And I just want them to know how much their daddy loved them and how much his sisters loved him. And I want you to know how much he loved you. But most of all, I want you to know how much God loves you so much more. That's all I have to say.